Hola amigos, ¿qué tal? Stuart here from Spain Speaks with an update video today. We'll go through some of the main newspapers here in Spain, check out what is happening in the press around the country today. We'll have a look at El Mundo, El País, El Confidencial, RTVE as we normally do. Then at the end of the video we'll go into the comment section and check out what is happening there. Some big news today. The health department has decided to rectify that mask wearing mandate, the one that we found out about last week where we had to wear masks everywhere we went here in Spain, at the beach, at the pool, in the mountains. They have decided to change that, and now they are recommending that in the autonomous communities, masks don't have to be worn in those particular situations. But I'm sure we'll read about that in the news today. So let's get started. And we'll go firstly into El Mundo, and you can see that they are leading with that piece of news, rectification. The health ministry now proposes to the autonomous communities that people won't have to wear a mask at the beach, at the pool, and when they are walking in the countryside. So there we go, and it didn't take long for the health ministry to change that decision. There was talk last week that they were going to do it, and of course everybody in the country was up in arms at the fact that they had to wear a mask everywhere they went here in Spain. As we said, at the beach, at pools, walking in the countryside. It didn't really make a lot of sense. We got a lot of feedback in the comment section here on the channel as well. People not very happy about that rule. People saying that they would go to another country to have a holiday, somewhere where the rules were a little bit less strict. So good to see common sense prevailing when it comes to wearing a mask here in Spain. Obviously, if you go to a very crowded beach, you most likely will have to wear a mask. But if you go to a beach and there's nobody around, which is possible still in Spain, there are some beaches where you can find not a lot of people. And especially when you're hiking or trekking in the mountainside, it didn't really make sense to have to put a mask on if there's no one else around. Now we'll go back into the news, and there's an article here about the airline Plus Ultra that we've been speaking about a lot in recent times. We'll click on that one and we can see the headline: Brussels will open an investigation on the government for the Plus Ultra case. A European politician, Mr. Garciano, presents a formal complaint to the European Commission for the illegal state aid and activates a procedure. So maybe, just maybe, we might get to the bottom of this Plus Ultra scandal and find out exactly why the government decided to classify this company as strategic and give them a lot of money, especially when we know that some of the people in charge of this Plus Ultra company are not the most reputable businessmen going around. Now we'll go back into the news, and there's an article here about Prime Minister Sanchez and some of the things that he said yesterday about the vaccination plan in Spain. So we'll click on that one. And the headline reads that the vaccination figures given yesterday by Pedro Sanchez prevent a normal summer. Masks, hand gels and safety distance will be essential in the summer months despite the vaccination of 31.8% of the population in June. So there we go. This paper already a little bit critical of that information given by Sanchez yesterday when he said that he expects 70% of the population to be vaccinated by the end of August. But of course that means that in July and August a lot of people are not going to be vaccinated, therefore they're not going to be able to have the summer that they were planning to have, because as we know, people around Europe have been promising the 14th of July, but Sanchez came out yesterday and said that it won't be until the end of August. Now we'll leave El Mundo and go to El País, check out what is happening there. And the main story El País is going with here today is about the Madrid election, and we can see the headline: Ayuso and Sanchez focus the Battle of Madrid on the clash over the management of the pandemic. And this upcoming election in Madrid is getting a lot of press. As we can see, things are starting to get quite nasty, and one of the key aspects of the election, as we just saw, is going to be the management of the pandemic over the last year or so. Who's done it better, the central government or the autonomous communities, especially here in Madrid, the way that it has been handled by Ms. Ayuso, or the way that Pedro Sanchez and his party has handled the pandemic? A lot of people will most likely be voting with that in mind. Now we'll go back into the news, and there's an article here about the Sputnik vaccine here in Spain, so we'll click on that one. And the headline reads: The businessman who spoke with Madrid about the Russian vaccine. We spoke with several autonomous communities, he says. The businessman who dealt with the Ayuso's government about Sputnik V, Pedro Mourinho, defends the regional powers and their ability to purchase. Now, we saw that story yesterday about how the Madrid community was contemplating buying the Sputnik vaccine because their argument is that the other vaccines are not arriving, so they need to get their hands on other vaccines, hence Sputnik. We know that the Valencian community did something similar recently, and according to this businessman, other autonomous communities around the country are trying to get their hands on Sputnik. The bad news is that Sputnik has not yet been authorized by the European agency, so I don't think it's allowed to be used legally in countries like Spain, but as we just saw there, various autonomous communities trying to get their hands on it. And let's be honest, vaccines here in Spain have become political, and of course with this election going on now in the Madrid community, we're going to see more stories like this popping up, because that is one of the main debates. The central government is not doing a very good job when it comes to vaccines, and autonomous communities are trying to get the upper hand and that political edge. Now we'll leave El País and go to El Confidencial, and as we can see, they have changed the graphics. We no longer have a map of the health situation in Spain, but now we have a graph showing vaccination progress. And as we can see down the bottom, 6.12% of the population have completed their vaccination, trying to get to that 70% mark. And we have all of the different autonomous communities around the country. So for example, we'll click on Andalusia and we can see that they are at 6.2%. The Balearic Islands are at 4.22%. The Valencian community at 5.2%. And the Madrid community has managed to get 5.81% of the population totally vaccinated. Now we'll leave El Confidencial and go to the state broadcaster RTVE, check out what is happening there. And apparently today it's World Health Day, and that is the main story that the state broadcaster is going with here today. We can see the headline, "The Great Forgotten of Public Health, Dentistry, Physiotherapy, Podiatry or Mental Health." There's an article there on the right about the AstraZeneca vaccine, and the headline reads that the European Medicines Agency will give their verdict today on the AstraZeneca vaccine and blood clots. Now this seems to be a story that won't go away, that connection between blood clots and the AstraZeneca vaccine. The European Medicines Agency, as we saw there, going to give their verdict today. And I think that somebody from that organisation came out yesterday and said that there was a definite link between that vaccine and blood clots. So we'll see what happens today regarding that piece of news and if European countries continue to use that vaccine. Now we'll go back into the news and click on this article here about El Grupo Limbo, and we can see the headline, "The Limbo Group, people from 66 to 79 years of age, the next big target of the vaccination campaign." People in this age group were forgotten about for immunisation during the first 3 months. So the Limbo Group is what this newspaper is calling that group of people that were forgotten about during the first 3 months of the vaccination campaign. Lots of people asking the question, where is my vaccine? People that were in this age group from 66 to 79. My girlfriend's parents, for example, find themselves in that age group and they are still waiting, but they've spoken to their doctor and apparently in the first 15 days of this month, they will receive a phone call. So we'll wait and see if that happens or not. Now we'll leave the press there and go into the comment section, check out what is happening there, and we'll have a look at this one from Pete A. "Hi Stuart, thanks for the consistent updates. I was wondering if you could do a video explaining the general political climate in Spain." Yeah, Pete, thanks for the comment. I have thought about doing a video on the political climate here in Spain, let people know what is happening politically around the country, or at least give my opinion on what I think is happening. Of course, there's always people that don't agree with what you say when it comes to politics, so you have to be careful. But then I realised that politics here in Spain is very, very complicated, especially when it comes to the regional levels. At that autonomous community level, there's lots and lots of political parties in places like the Basque Country, Catalonia, that I just don't know enough about. I could probably give a fairly good assessment of what's going on at a national level politics, but as I said, at regional level, a little bit too complicated, considering that there are 17 autonomous communities and there's lots of political parties that I just don't know about. But I will look into doing a video on the political climate at a national level here in Spain. And finally, one here from Chrissy, "Is Andalusia going to open provinces?" Yeah, Chrissy, thanks for the comment. I imagine that one day Andalusia will open up again and people will be able to travel from province to province in that part of Spain. At the moment, as we know, people are not allowed to travel between provinces down there. People from other parts of Spain are not allowed to visit Andalusia. If you live in Jaén, for example, you can't go to Córdoba, and if you live in Madrid, you can't travel to Andalusia. So a bit of an inconvenience, especially for people that have holiday homes down there. Lots and lots of people in places like Madrid have holiday homes in Andalusia, and they are dying to get down there and visit those homes again. But I imagine that once the health situation gets under control and more people get vaccinated, parts of the country will start opening up again. And I imagine that Andalusia will also be one of those places in Spain that starts to open up, especially when the weather starts to get a little bit better, because as we know, Andalusia is a place that needs tourists. On that note, I'll start to wrap the video up. Questions and comments, please leave them in the section below. Debate the situation out as you normally do. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't. I'll see you in the next one. Hasta luego.